Hi, and welcome to Dietless Living 360 Degrees, overcoming weight loss obstacles with me, your host, Katie Gordon. As a weight loss coach, I help my clients to overcome their weight loss obstacles so that they can lose weight their way and lose it for life. But the old saying that it takes a village to raise a child actually applies to our weight loss obstacles as well, and reaching our weight loss goals and our health goals. Because the obstacles that we have in life often reach out into other areas of our life, whether it's in our relationships, our business, our work, careers, maybe in our home or in our finances. And sometimes we have injuries or other more complex health issues that are impacting our ability to lose weight. So with that in mind, Dietless Living 360 Degrees brings in other professionals to help you overcome those obstacles. And today we have Annette Densham, who is an award-winning PR and business awards specialist, which sometimes still surprises her because the only award she'd ever won was the Top Dog Achievement Award in grade 2. After losing her cushy corporate communication role, Annette had to reinvent herself and stepped out from behind the keyboard to build her own PR agency. Using her print journalism and corporate communication skills, she now works with entrepreneurs and businesses to build Googleicious profiles by sharing their stories across multiple channels, winning them awards and getting them featured in the media. So welcome to the show, Annette. It's so great having you with us today. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what you do and what the main way is that you help your clients?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Katie, for having me. I love being here with you. So what I do is like my whole life, and that sounds like an exaggeration, but it's not. My whole life has been about telling stories and sharing stories. I started in journalism when I was 15 because I'm a natural sticky beak and busybody. So I love knowing what's going on, and I love asking questions. And even as I was a really shy kid. That may surprise you, but I still was confident enough to ask questions when necessary. So what I do now, crikey, 35 years on, is I tell people stories, or I empower them to tell their stories using all the wonderful, delicious channels that we have available to us now. Like back when I started in journalism, people got their news from the TV, the radio, or newspaper. Now, like you don't even need to read any or look any of those things because it'll pop up in your Facebook feed. So I take those people through that journey of pulling out their stories. And it's not just, when you think of storytelling, it's not like, once upon a time, happily ever after. It's like, what's your hero story? How did you get to be where you are? What are the problems that you solve? What are your insights into the industry that you work with and work within? So that's what I do, and I apply those skills to things like PR, which is, reaching out to the media, sharing people's stories, writing articles for magazines, and what our superpower is writing business awards. So that's what we do for our clients, and then we help them leverage those tools so that it's not just seen by a few people, that it's seen by lots of people, because we want them to be Googleicious and found all over the internet. So if someone types Katie Gordon in there, you just come up with all of this stuff around, what you do with within weight loss and health and your story and your journey.
Well, that'd be great because there's 40,000 Katie Gordons out there. So when you Google Katie Gordon, there's a lot of us that come up. Be nice to stand out.
Absolutely. That's a really great point. I mean, you can go on Google Annette Densham, and it just kind of happened this way. There is only one Annette Densham out there. Like you'll get to 11 pages before you start seeing some other type of Densham. Most famous one is Penn Densham, who is an author. But yeah, if you've got a really common name, then you have to work really hard at dropping those organic, pieces of content so that Google goes, oh, okay, I can see what this person is doing, and start to rank you a little bit higher in the feed.
I love that word, Googleicious. Did you come up with that? Is that your wordsmithing?
I think it is. I've Googled Googleicious, and I can't really find many other people who are using it with such flamboyance and prolificness as I do. So I'm going to own that one, Katie. It's mine. I made it up. I'm thinking maybe I could contact Beyonce and see if she would do, like, you know, her song, My Body Is. And I think that's where it came from. I was listening to Beyonce, I don't know why, and she was singing, you know, my body is bootylicious. And I went, that's what we do. We make profiles, Googlicious. So I was sitting there doing the dance, and it's like, I wonder if she'd change a song so that it could be our theme song. I might have to sell a kidney for that.
You should do. And stick a little TM on the end of it. That's your trademark.
Yeah, actually, I should do that. Thank you. Note to self.
Tick. Listen, there's usually a series of questions that I take my guests through. And today I sort of want to pop some of those aside, because I think most of those questions that I ask are covered in your new book that you've just released.
Probably. Is that like this wonderful piece of work here?
Would you like to tell us a little bit about your book? Because I normally am talking to my guests about, you know, the hardships that they've overcome, obstacles, how they've overcome them. And then we talk about a few things, what they do for fun, relaxation, biggest risks they've done. And I think that all of those questions are in your book.
Maybe. My book only goes up to when I'm 25. I'm now almost 52. So I've got a whole other 25 years that I can share trials and tribulations. But basically, handle your own PR. Nice shout out to Jill's book there. She's on my mind. How to Eat a Shit Sandwich and Keep Smiling is the story of my childhood up until I was 25, because I really don't think I became an adult until I was 25. And it goes through those really significant moments in my life and the things that helped shape me and help guide my story as, you know, I worked my way through those things, you know, like, so, you know, the book starts with my father dumping mum and myself and my sister in a flat in Hobart, because he was a man who loved the ladies. So he decided that, you know, mum and two kids was cramping his style, and ran off with another woman and dumped mum and I and my sister. All of, you know, through, you know, when I lived with my grandparents, my grandfather was, you know, not the nicest man. You know, some may call him a pedophile. Actually, that's what I'm going to call him. To, you know, domestic violence, and, you know, moving to Sydney to start working for a major newspaper and realising that I really just didn't fit in. You know, like there's a chapter in there with, I have a discussion with the editor of one of the papers, and I'm going like, why are you not like moving me up? You know, I'm a great writer. I'm easy to work with, you know, like I can get anyone to talk to me. And he said to me, no word of a lie, we think you're a little bit too vivacious, Annette. Oh. And my response was, get fucked. Seriously, that's the lamest excuse I've ever heard. And he went, see? And I went, oh, so you want puppets, do you? All right, well, then maybe this is not the right place for me. So it's written in the style and the voice of the person I was at the time. So when you read chapter 1, I'm like 3. It's my earliest memory. And as you read it, it's written as if I'm 3. You know, so when you get to my teen years, so when, you know, growing up in the 80s, go 80s music, you know, there's lots of cultural references to what Australia was like at that time. But you know, it sounds really serious, and it is really serious. But I'm a bit of a joker. So there's a lot of humour peppered through there, because the cover, How to Eat a Shit Sandwich and Keep Smiling, is that I've eaten so many shit sandwiches, but it constantly amazes me that I can find humour in just about anything. And I'm never down for long. I'm always like going, all right, dust yourself back off, Annette. Let's go see how we can make this work better, or find something else to do, or look at the bright side.
Do the Pollyanna thing, right?
Look. I was going to use that term, Polly. I've said that to a few young people. I'm a bit of a Pollyanna, and they're like, what Pollyanna is. So I send them a link to the show and go, here, watch this.
Well, actually, how old do you think you were when you started developing either your humor or your ability to see that bright side? Because I don't know, I'm often wondering whether it's something we learn from other people or whether it's something that, sometimes comes in innate in us.
Well, that's a really great question. Like what popped into my head was at being 7 years old and doing, I used to love ads and I would memorize them and then I would perform them back to my family in a funny voice or go get dressed up and, like act out a character to that ad. So I think it started really early. And I wonder if it's innate because, like when I was 7, there was some pretty serious stuff going on in my house. So there wasn't a lot of humor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it might just be innate. It might just be in my DNA. That's the way I was created. That's the way I look at the life because it's how I've always been. Like I remember my friends at school when they read my book and they went, "We didn't even know that was going on in your life because you were always so happy."
Yeah.
And I was like, well, school was my safe place. There was my friends, like teachers who looked after you, opportunities to go to parties and have fun. Like what's not to love about that?
And a physical safe place as well.
Yeah, my sister, I mean, she's got a good sense of humor, but I know she sometimes looks at me as if to go, "You're a weirdo. Where did you come from?"
Not
God
sure
love
if
her.
we're related.
Yeah, that's right. My mum really wasn't, the happiest, brightest person. I can understand why. She had the weight of the world on her shoulders.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I was just born with a sense of humor, and I've curated it over the years with the types of things I like to watch. And sitting there the other day listing off my favorite movies to my husband, and it's like one of my favorite movies is Rock of Ages and We're the Millers. They're both comedies. They're just both absolutely ridiculous. But I love them because there's just this innate sense of fun and, colour to the humour. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Born With It.
Sounds like you were. You've had it all along.
Yeah.
Well, so tell me then, if your book only goes to when you were 25, what would be the biggest hardships or obstacles you've had to overcome between 25 and 52?
The first one that comes to mind is that, Zaid's 21. So my eldest son's 21. When he was 15 months old, my husband's stepfather cajoled us to move up to Airlie Beach to take over the family business. Now, this man was a workplace psychopath. He was seriously cracked. And like I can remember the first time I saw him lose his shit, I looked at Earl and went, "Oh, I understand where you're coming from now." Because he was like, he was reluctant because he'd gone, "Oh, he always used to act like this. Maybe he's changed." No, he hadn't. And after 6 months, he stomped into our house and told us that he wasn't going to sell to us and we could just go back to Brisbane where we came from. So like we had someone in our house. We really didn't have any money because we were buying into this business, so we weren't taking a wage.
Yeah.
So that was like a massive life spin because here we were so far away from all of our friends and our families with a little one in this really toxic environment. So that was really hard. And then, but I guess it worked out really well because, well, maybe not well, that's not the right words, because when I was pregnant with Quinn, who's now almost 18. My goodness, I'm getting old. We decided to come home and found out, 6 months later that my mum had terminal cancer. Oh. So that was really, really hard. And still, she's been gone for 16 years and it still chokes me up to think that she's not here, because she was my hero, and watching her die was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Just seeing her decide that she wasn't going to fight and that this was her ticket out of hardship. And yeah, it was very difficult. And I wouldn't wish that upon anybody ever on the planet, but I know it happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're probably the two hardest things that I've had to deal with in the last 25 years.
What words of advice would you give? Because there's other people who have to watch loved ones pass in unpleasant circumstances. I know of a few friends that have had to be there and see all of that, and just the emotional trauma of it for them to be able to handle it, and how it stayed with them. Like you say, it's still years and years later, and they're still, because of the memories of it. Do you have any words of wisdom or strategies that you've used to help yourself deal with that?
I'm going to go back to sense of humour. Like
Yeah.
even when Mum went into palliative care and, we knew that she wasn't leaving, I was still cracking jokes and making a laugh, because it made me, like, when you laugh, your body releases so many amazing chemicals that you can't help but, and it doesn't take away the pain, but it actually makes you feel a little better, and it makes you a little bit stronger because you get this surge and it's like, okay, I can move through and I can do that.
Yeah.
When Mum was dying, I watched so much comedy, like Blackadder and Billy Connolly and, any type of comedy sitcom that I could find, because it would put me in a space of not toxic positivity, but of a more, positive outlook, and, recognizing that, death's it's a really natural part of life. And whether you go now or you go later, we're all going to have to deal with that. So putting myself in that space of going, okay, I can't be miserable because I don't want Mum to be feeling terrible because I feel terrible.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see what are the light spots that I can find in light. So I think, find a way to make yourself laugh, even though it feels horrible, and you probably think, I shouldn't be laughing because that person's dying, but that they're going to want you to keep living and they want you to keep moving forward. So don't shelve all of those other emotions, because that's what will get you through. I mean, like I still grieve for my mum 16 years later, but it's, that moment of, and then it's like, but, Mum would be so proud of what I've accomplished, and she'd look at her grandsons and just go, wow, look at what a great job you've done as parents. And so, try and find those nice little sparkly bits in between.
Which is really important, right? Because we have to have relief from the grieving. We just can't grieve 24 hours a day, 7 days a week forever, because it's just too exhausting. And you made a really good point there, because when you said about, find something to laugh about, find something humorous, even though in that moment your brain's saying you've no right to be laughing. There's people dying. This is not a laughing time. But it's been proven. Even I remember reading a story about firemen, and how the tragic things that they have to witness, and all of that, and how they have to use, they just naturally go to using black humor as a way just to like blast apart the moment. Otherwise, it's just too much. We do have to find that laughter.
And I think, sadly, in this day and age where, political correctness is almost so far to the left, and, the woke community and the cancel culture that we live with is so destructive to those very natural reactions that we have as human beings. Like I was saying to my son the other day, we were talking about laughing. Someone dies and you laugh and you feel guilty about it. And it's like, mate, the reason we're able to get through these moments is because when we make a joke about something that's almost too horrific for our brains to cope with, the humour allows us to kind of smooth that path through it and recover out the other side. So, I was watching Grey's Anatomy the other day. It's where all my great insights come from, Katie. And there was a woman had come in and her partner had died, and she was talking to the doctor, and you could see in that moment that, she was acting, but in that moment she forgot that she was meant to be sad, and she laughed, and then she went shut down. And the doctor said to her, no, it's okay for you to continue to find joy and love and positiveness in your life. That doesn't detract from that person's passing.
Yes.
Because, as harsh as it is, they're gone. You still have to continue living. And we have to do that in the fullness and richness of all of our humanity. And we cannot shut down those emotions. That will help us get through.
Well, and it's so right. And we often do. I remember many times my brother passed when I was 16, and I remember just thinking, no right at all, or not even not a right. It's like, how can I possibly be happy? This person that I've loved beyond life is gone. But without that to soothe ourselves, like you have to have relief from the grief. It's a must. Otherwise, you're just insane all the time.
Yeah, it's almost like a security blanket, one of those little blankies that you would rub when you're a kid. That's what I think our humour is. It's that little soft plush blankie that makes us feel good even for a moment.
Yeah.
And I don't want to live going through life feeling bad for feeling good. And something I really noticed through COVID was people going, we write awards, and people going, I really don't want to promote the awards with all of the bad things going on in the world. And I'm like, why the fuck not?
Exactly.
Like, seriously, does the world stop because there's a pandemic or there's a fire or there's a drought? That doesn't diminish your heart and your compassion and your empathy for the people who are going through that. But don't punish yourself because you're not.
And play small, right?
And play small, because those people who are struggling don't want you to put your life on hold. Because how do we keep the economy going and our relationships going if we all go, well, the world sucks, we should all be miserable? Like, where's the hope in that?
Well, exactly right. And like, happiness is a skill. We're not taught to be happy. We are taught to be cautious and, how dare you be happy when your brother's whatever, or, there's all kinds of messages that we get through our life about don't be happy. And I know some people who grew up in homes where being happy was a punishable offense, because, other people in the home were so unhappy just in general with their life that if their kids were happy, they got punished for, oh, you're happy, well, I'll give you something to be happy about, go scrub the floors and, those kinds of things. And happiness really is a skill, because it goes against like the natural innate part of our brain to be happy. You learned early, which is wonderful, how to make yourself happy, because the brain's natural thing is be on the lookout for danger and don't be happy now. I know a lot of people go by the what's the old saying, waiting for the other shoe to drop. When things are really good and it's like, yay, everything's going really well. Oh, well, we'll see. We'll wait for the, the other shoe to drop kind of thing. And it's like, no, be happy. Enjoy the moment. You're allowed.
Why can't the other shoe be a big sparkly stiletto ready to take you to the ball?
Exactly. So you've raised some really good points, and I'm really grateful that you did, because it's important for people to remember that happiness is in your control.
Absolutely. So it's like when people say, I didn't have a choice. Well, yeah, you always have a choice. Not having a choice is making a choice. When people go, I can't make a decision. Well, you've just made a decision that you're not going to make a decision. So when we take back our power and we go, if it is to be, it's up to me. I think I was like 17 or 18. No, I might have been a little bit older, and I was looking for a job. I'd finished high school, looking for a job. There was like record unemployment, and I did this course with Lifeline on job skills.
Yeah.
And we had someone come in and, talk about mindset. Like, this is back in the late 80s. And we were talking about mindset. And I remember saying something like, oh, it's that person's fault that I'm unhappy. And I remember being pulled up, and it's stuck with me ever since. And the teacher said, the only person who can make you happy is you. No one else can make you feel any other way. So like one of the things that maybe irks me a little bit is this word trigger. Like trigger warning people, this is a trigger warning, we're going to talk about domestic violence or whatever it is. And it's like, if you accept that how you respond to whatever comes up in front of you is in your control, then you're never triggered. I mean, like, man, my life is filled with sexual abuse. And I can read that stuff about, women's stories without being triggered because I know it's their story.
Yeah.
It's not my story. And that I'm not going to live in a space of being a victim because that's, I feel like that's a victim mentality when you push it all out and you say, well, you made me feel this way, or you did this to me, or you did that to me. And I can't even remember what the question is now. I've got on my soapbox there.
I think it's okay, right? Because the word trigger, like some things do trigger us. However, once you've been triggered, maybe that does happen for some people without warning. It certainly does for me. Something happens and you go, oh, and there's an emotion and stuff, but you've got to grab your awareness of it as quick as you can, as soon as you know it's happening, and then take responsibility to change what's going on, not just run with it.
Absolutely. That's absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, you're right. I often go, oh, that's offensive, but it's offensive to me. Yeah. And then I choose how offended I'm going to be by that. Most of the time I'm like, really, do I really want to spend time worrying about
do I want to waste
someone else
precious life on that?
Yeah, that's right. I'd rather go and download the new episode of Grey's Anatomy and sit on my couch.
Get some more insights.
Yeah, and eat some chocolate. I'm pretty sure after 18 seasons of Grey's Anatomy, I could do like a Whipple.
What's a Whipple?
It's a medical procedure.
Oh.
Yeah.
If ever I need a Whipple, I'm coming to you.
Yeah, come to me. Like, I've watched so many Whipples being performed on Grey's Anatomy, I'm pretty certain I could pull it off.
Well, you know what? It's really amazing what people, I'm sure there's millions of stories out there of people who've done miraculous things because they've seen it on TV or in a movie or something. And then in that moment of crisis, and their brain's gone, I know how to do that.
Yeah, well, look, if your pancreas ever goes, you need me to look after it, then the Whipple will come in handy. So, I've got some pretty sharp knives around.
Remind me of MASH. No, I won't go there.
I do have a scalpel somewhere. I've actually got a scalpel. Don't ask me why.
Or what you do with it. Yeah,
I don't even know where it is.
Well, I just love the interesting conversation that you can have because no one's really capable of diving into some of those biggest topics. So can you tell me about the biggest risk that you've ever taken and why?
Ooh, okay. I'm a big one for going with the first thing that pops into my head. So the first thing that popped into my head was bungee jumping.
You're gamer than me. I've always did that.
In a bikini. That was risky. It was very entertaining for everyone else, but I tell you what, it was a bit of a tits up for me when you go in the water and you lose your bikini top. That's like, that wasn't really a risk. It was very safe, had all the safety procedures. But for me, I was scared of heights. And I can remember it was like 200 feet. It was the tallest bungee jump in the Southern Hemisphere. It was up in Ellie Beach. And I got to the top and I thought I was going to vomit. My knees, even though my legs were strapped together, were like banging together. And it's like my hands were shaking. And it's like, I'm going to die if I do this. This is stupid.
What am I doing?
And I said what am I doing? And I said to the guy, I said, I don't think I can do this. And he said one thing to 25-year-old me who'd left her job and had no other job to go to. You don't get your money back. And I was like, oh, God damn it, I'm going to do it. So he said, look, just go stand on the edge, look out, don't look down, and just count to 1, 2, 3, bungee, and dive in. So I did just that, and I was the most amazing thing I think I've ever done. The adrenaline from jumping 200 feet into a little tiny pool was just
Into a cup.
into a cup. It looked like a cup from above. It was exhilarating. And my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, said to me, that was the most amazing dive. He said, your form was excellent. And I was like, well, maybe I could get a job at the Olympics.
I was just thinking Olympic dive board.
Yeah. So that's my smart ass answer. The biggest risk I think I've taken was when I moved from Brisbane to Sydney to go work for a major newspaper in Sydney. I moved without actually having a job. I packed up my whole life, which really wasn't much. I was 21 years old, hopped on a train, went and stayed in some boy's house that I'd met a few months before and lived with him and his family for a while, until I could do the entrance exam to get into working as a journalist. And that was a massive risk. I had no money. I had no job. I didn't know anybody. I was thousands of kilometres from home, no backup, no support. But I just think that was the spirit of how I lived my life. It's, go do the thing and then work out how to make the thing work afterwards. Because I found that if I sit and think too long about something, because I'm a real plotter, and it'll be like, okay, if I do this, then this will happen, and then this will happen. But if I do this, this will happen. I found that if I just go, you know what, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
My husband will go, well, how are you going to make it work? And I don't care. We'll work it out.
Work it out as you go. You've got to get off the starting block anyway to know how it's going to go, to know what to do next, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's hopefully I infuse that in the clients that we work with, because a lot of them have got, that itty bitty shitty committee in their head telling them that they can't do it, they're not good enough, that who do they think they are?
Yeah.
But if you can encourage them just to take that step, being emboldened has something that, I don't know, it must be another surge of chemicals that go through your brain and tells that voice to shut up, and you go, you know what, I can actually do this.
Yeah.
Just need to take another step. So yeah, it was risky, didn't really pay off, because it ended with me taking that organisation to court for just really horrible employment practices.
Yeah.
But I actually left. I walked away from journalism in that moment, and I felt really proud of myself because I stood up for my principles. I stood up for myself, and I didn't just stand up for myself. I stood up for dozens of other people who were working in the same conditions with me, but who were so trapped by opportunity and saying the wrong thing and upsetting the powers that be, that, you could have whipped them and they would have gone, please whip me harder. I want this job, make me bleed. And I just went, I'm not prepared to sacrifice and, shed what I believe is right just because I really want this job. So, so 4 years later, I packed my bags up again and came back to Brisbane.
But see, that's the learning curve of life, isn't it? It's hard to sometimes point out whether it was a success or a failure or something else, because ultimately it leads to other things anyway.
Yeah, well, I met my husband and we've been together 27 years. And we've got 2 beautiful kids and an amazing life together.
Yep, all part of the breadcrumb trail.
Yep.
So we talked about some of the biggest obstacles that you've had to overcome that were thrust upon you, for want of a better term, which is, obstacles of life. It's human being. Stuff happens to us. And we've talked about the risks that you've taken, but is there, what's the hardest thing that you've ever voluntarily put yourself through, and why?
Oh, look, I'm going to say weight loss surgery last year. That was big, having your stomach removed, that's extreme.
Yeah.
And, there's so many things that can go wrong, not just in the surgery, but after the surgery, things like reflux and, bowel issues and gallbladder issues and malnutrition and, all of those type of things. But I'd reached a point in my life where I was that unwell, and I'd been unwell for so long that I went, I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. Like, I mean, I'm a happy, positive person, but I can really see this bringing me down to the point where I'm going to be in a mobility chair before I'm 60. And it's like, I've still got so much life to live. And I wasn't finding any solutions within the medical community. I'd been to endocrinologists and GP, all types of specialists. I'd tried all types of different ways of eating and exercise and meditation and you name it. I'd given it a crack. And I went and saw my doctor. It was like January 2021, and it's like I could see the weight just getting more and more on my body, and everything hurt, and I was just sick all the time. And so I found this really great hormone doctor, and I went to visit her, and we were talking about it, and she said to me, Annette, have you considered weight loss surgery? And I went, what? I was a little bit offended, even though I was really fat. It's like, if there was ever a candidate for weight loss surgery, it was me. But in my head, it was like, weight loss surgery is for people who overeat, who've got emotional eating problems, and that's not me. Yeah. And she said, and she challenged me. So if you ever want me to do anything, challenge me. And she said, Annette, I think you need to go educate yourself. And I was like, oh, okay, I've been put in my place. So I started that journey of like looking at the benefits of that gastric sleeve surgery on thyroid issues and on immune compromised health issues. And there was some incredible research out there where they're having really favorable outcomes on improving thyroid function in people who had hypothyroidism. So it was like, all right, I'm going to do it. So I can remember sitting there with my compression stockings on and my really ugly, hospital gown, just petrified and like going, one, it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
But two, it was going to be a lot of pain. So, I put my hand up for that. Yes, put me in pain and make it really hard for me for 4 months not to be able to eat. And, to get through a litre of water is like, oh, my God, I've got to drink more water. But it paid off. My health is excellent. I'm not malnourished. I sleep really well. I can wipe my bum without getting a stitch. All of those things that I was struggling so hard to do, almost a year later, has changed my life.
And did they help prepare you for all of that, or yes?
I looked for a clinic. I actually paid more. I did a lot of research around clinics.
Yeah.
And I found one that had a really great support program. So I had to pay, $5,000 more for it. But it included a psychologist. So I have a meeting with a psychologist every month. I had to go see the psychologist before I had the surgery to make sure that, I was in sound mind and probably to suss out what my emotional eating issues were, if I had any, what type of support system I had at home. I have a meeting with a dietitian every month. I have a meeting with a nurse every month. And after the surgery, for the first 4 months, it was weekly. There was someone calling me and saying, how are you going? And it'd be like, I'm really struggling with this. And they go, well, do this, or, eat this, or drink more of this, or, what mostly it was around pooing. It's like, I can't poo. Oh.
Such an important and vital thing, and you don't know how wonderful it is unless you've not been able to do it.
Oh, my God, I said to my husband the other day, like, this is probably TMI, but I came out of the loo and I went, oh, my God, that was the best poo I've done in 6 months. And he looked at me and as if to go, you need to get out more.
No, that was just truly great.
That was like inspirational.
I know. Only those who know the trauma of not being able to.
Yeah.
Well, that's really great. So what advice would you have for other people who were considering to have that surgery?
do your homework. I mean, like, it's really easy to be generic and say this is, a solution that will help everybody. But what I've noticed, I'm in a lot of Facebook groups with people who've had weight loss surgery, is the number one thing is if you've got an issue with food, the emotional issues with food, you really need to sort that out first.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not going to sort it out, but you really need to get help in working out why food is an issue for you, why you emotionally eat, or why you crave certain things. And it's never about the food, is it, Katie? It's always about what's going on between your ears and your life experiences.
Exactly.
And
not being able to eat, like having so much of your stomach removed, but still having all of those urges in there, that's just torment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like one of my favorite foods was chili chips. I could sit and I could eat half a packet of chili chips in one sitting before I went, all right, I think I'm going to vomit. And now I don't even eat chili chips anymore. It really changed I had a pretty good relationship with food,
yep.
but it changed my taste buds and my experience of food. And I think now I probably savor food a lot more. So like I've got my husband buys me a block of chocolate every month.
Yeah.
So even though I didn't have food issues, I had a big stomach like everybody.
Yeah.
I'd eat that in a night. I've had this for, I don't know, this is my 3rd week.
Oh, wow, cool.
And so I have one line.
Yeah.
When I go, I feel like chocolate. And I can make it last for 30 minutes because I just savor it. It's just so good. So, yeah, work on what's going on between your head before you have that surgery. Research and find a good surgeon. Go and join Facebook groups. I did 6 months before the surgery and asked lots of questions so that when I had the surgery and I got home, I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I knew how my body would respond in terms of my bowel movements. I knew what would happen with my monthly cycle. I knew what, type of foods I would have to eat over those months. And also make sure you've got an excellent support system at home. That really makes my husband made sure my first 3 months is I really didn't have to think about what I ate.
Yep.
He just made it and delivered it to me. And he was always like going, I don't think you've eaten enough protein today. I'm going to make you a drink and put some protein powder in it, okay? And I'm like, okay, darling. Because when I look at my body now, because I was really worried that because I was so, I've lost almost 60 kilos.
Wow.
I was so big. I thought, how can that stomach shrink down into what it is now and not look like the surface of the moon, that someone's blown up with some rockets? But I think, making sure I ate lots of really good protein and collagen in my protein powder was a big thing. So you don't know those things unless you ask questions.
And see, now that's a good thing, right? What you're saying, can you tell people some of the good questions to ask? Because I know in different situations in my life, I've gone, ask good questions. I don't know what to ask because I don't know what I don't know. Please tell me the questions to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the biggest questions I asked was, what can go wrong?
Mm-hmm.
What's the worst case scenario? What's the best case scenario? And how would I manage those?
Yeah.
And another one was, who are the people out there that can help me get through this? So there's a lot of really good businesses like Tiny Tummies that make bariatric size meals so that, maybe you live by yourself and you don't have someone to help you, is that you can booby trap your food, because one of the biggest slippery slopes is going back to old habits. And I went into and after surgery prepared to change my habits and how I ate and my composition of my food. Like now I'm just bending down because I can't eat enough sometimes that I have to give, so that's what I eat food out of now. That's my dinner bowl, that's my lunch bowl, that's my breakfast bowl. That's where all my food goes. I'm pretty sure the dog might need surgery soon because he keeps eating all my leftovers. Now he expects it. He's got expectation. And as soon as I eat, he's there like going, you're eating? Okay, I'm going to get something out of this. And another really good question that I asked was, how do I, and this is where I got the protein and the collagen from, was how do I prepare my body so that I don't need to have plastic, like, tummy tuck or any of those type of things, because I thought I really don't want to have to go back under anesthesia and under the knife. It takes a long time to recover. I think it was probably 5 months till I started going, oh, actually, I feel like a normal human being now.
Yeah.
But if you go into those groups, so there's a really good group on Facebook called Beck's Totally Honest Group.
Yeah.
She started it. Her name's Rebecca. She started the group, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago after she had surgery. And there's now something like 15,000 people in there who share their wins and their challenges and their struggles. And like going through those groups helped me with questions, even before I knew what questions I needed to ask, because someone else had asked them.
Yeah.
So always reach out to the community, because there'll always be someone out there who's been through it before you and can give you some insight and guidance.
Thank you so much for that, because that's going to be really helpful for somebody, right? It's just we don't know what questions to ask unless we know what questions to ask. And if you don't know what questions to ask, where's the place to go to start looking and join in the conversations?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you don't know what you don't know, and it's really hard if the balls bounce back into your court to ask questions, and you're like going, there's so many people who get such bad advice.
Yes.
Because they don't know what to ask. So yeah, always reach out to your community.
And when you find a good question, that's a new word for you. When you find a good question, ask lots of people the same question.
Yeah, absolutely. And get lots of different answers, so then you can go, okay, I need to sort through this based on my life experience and my intellect, and work out what suits me. And another one is, if you've got a question, there are no dumb questions. Ask it, put it out into the public forum, because there'll be someone out there who will know the answer for you. And like, I'm a really big one for that. I'm become a massive oversharer, because I just realize in my life there's so many people, toddling along in ignorance, not for their own fault, but just because they don't know what to ask, or they're not sure how to express themselves. And I went, you know what? I've got the power and the skill to be able to say what I think and do it, articulately and well written. That's my responsibility to say things like, hey, that's not on, or has anyone thought of this? And I always get messages back from people going, thank you so much for saying that, or for asking that, or for sharing that, because that's how I feel, or I was wondering about that. And it's like, rising tide lifts all ships. If we can help each other with, knowledge is power, then, we can't be bamboozled by these politician types out there.
Exactly.
Who speak in riddles. Then we can go back and go, yes, we know what we want.
Exactly right. So tell me, Annette, because we're going to have to wind up soon. Unfortunately, I could talk to you all day. You're so interesting, and I just love the conversation with you. I want to get back to what you do with the PR work and how you help people. So before we go, in a few more words, how you help people with the getting the awards and telling their story, so that if their obstacle at the moment is getting their business known, how would you be able to help them do that?
Okay, have a conversation with either me or Lauren. Again, it comes down to, you don't know what you don't know. And when it comes to awards, people get, overwhelmed by all of the categories and all the different types of awards, but even distilling down what their achievements are, because when you work in small business or, in your own venture, you are head down, bum up, eyes on the prize, in the day-to-day, working on all of the bits and pieces that we quite often don't come up for air and come above our business and go, oh, wow, I've brought on 10 new clients this year, or my business has grown by 20%, or my income's increased, or I've been asked on all of these podcasts, or, someone's approached me to do this collaboration. So telling, and especially working with someone who's a professional sticky beak, I ask lots of questions. So I'm able to go, oh, you just like, and it's amazing, Katie, when someone goes, oh, I did blah, 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 blah. And then they go on and I go, no, hang on, let's go back a little bit, because you just told me that you won an Olympic gold medal in shot put, and you've just cast that aside like it was taking the washing out yesterday. Let's talk a little bit about that. Anybody who's won gold in the Olympics for shot put, please contact me, because I'd love to talk to you. So, like anything, sometimes you just need another set of eyes or another set of ears to hear what it is and to ask those questions, so that we can say to you, okay, I think that you could enter this, this, and this in these categories because of this reason. Give them the information, and then it's up to them if they, want to have a go.
Yep. Cool. And if people want to find out more, how can they contact you?
Go to theaudaciousagency.com. So that's AUDACIOUS, theaudaciousagency.com. On the homepage, there's a link, chat with us. You can book an appointment, 20 minutes with me or with Lauren. We're both as good as each other. Lauren is the most amazing partner in shine on the planet. So, like we live and breathe awards. Or track me down on Facebook. You'll find me. It's the only one, Annette Densham, on Facebook. Or LinkedIn or Instagram. Google me. There's lots of smoke signals. Send me flowers. I'll be your friend forever.
Googleicious and you'll find her.
Googleicious Annette, that's me.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Annette. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I really hope you'll come back to the show at another time and we can continue our conversation. And to those that are watching, thank you for joining us today. And as always, it's really hard to say goodbye. So we hope to see you again at the next episode. And in the meantime, please subscribe to the channel. And if you got something great out of today's conversation with Annette, please leave a comment and give us a thumbs up and give us some encouragement to continue to produce the shows. And that's all for now. So thanks again, Annette. You've been an absolute delight. I'm just so pleased that you came on today. So bye, everybody. Bye for now.
Thanks, Katie. Bye.